Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Ended up with a little over a 1/4 inch last night. I'm in better spirits today, although we've spent the first 8 hours of the day drying off. It's midday. You never know what you're gonna find behind the main farm and the old cattle lots. It's a handle off of a tool, I think, and some rocks. It's always rocks around here. Jeff worked this last night. You can tell it's just damp still. We've kind of had a hazy sunshine today. Not the best for drying the ground out. I almost wonder if we ought to fire the field cultivators up here in a little bit. It's probably better to start at 4 o'clock than to do nothing at all. Check this out. And no, not the rock. Look at all these little guys coming up. Water hemp. Water hemp. I mean, this is already a 1.5 to 2 inch tall water hemp, multiple growing points on it. A prime example of how quickly this stuff starts to germinate and proliferate once the soil gets warm. I'd say 60, 65 plus degree soil temperatures, and you will have a boatload of water hemp. That's why residuals are so important. Fortunately for us, the field cultivators ought to cut this out and kill it, and we should get a nice clean slate and get that first big flush of water hemp killed off. And really, you'd probably like to have a residual on the soil anyways to kind of hold this stuff back. Fall chemicals not going to do anything for summer annuals. It would be helping though with some of these weeds that we're fighting here that aren't really growing much anymore, but they've kind of left a mat out here. It's Sunday, so obviously Alliance Tractor is not open. Just to remind you of the damage Katie did to the rolling basket when she backed into a tree. Very lightly, she claims. I would disagree. We'll get it fixed here because it's gonna rain all week. We'll have plenty of time. That's pretty dry on top. I haven't made my mind up yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and agitate this. I think at least that 70 acre field will spray. I think the order I'm going to attempt to do this, it's kind of late afternoon, but go ahead and spray the 70 and maybe the 30 I planted yesterday. Then I'm gonna get the soybean planter and try to plant off what I have in there. I'm gonna finish the last couple acres behind Dad's house, and I got another 20 acres. I mean, it's a pretty piddly patch over there. Then I'm gonna spray those, and then, I don't know, these fields are close. There's just a lot of wet spots in them that, you know, if we had one more day, if we hadn't gotten this rain last night, or the previous video at the end, a lot of this stuff would work up really good right now. But it rained, so nothing we can do about that. This will be my first time spraying after cleaning out from that store and corn herbicide trial. Gonna put a full load in, agitate it really good. That way, if there's anything in it, which there shouldn't be, it'll be nice and diluted and non-noticeable. Options in soybeans, even with enlist or extend flax, are not as effective as just stopping the water hemp residuals to begin with. Doesn't look any better today, so we don't bury this thing. Never had one of those adventures, not that I want to. Yeah, that one kind of needed the rain. I would have liked to get some more down before the rain came. It is what it is. There's actually, I guess, a chance that we miss the rain tomorrow morning. They backed it way off. Right now my phone's showing 1500ths, which is a pretty low rain anyways, less than we got last night. And we could miss it overall and possibly be able to run hard tomorrow. A moment of silence for the rolling basket section that tree took. I've got my boom a little higher in the air than I normally run it, just because these terraced farms are easier to spray when you got a couple extra inches of boom travel before you hit the ground. This 30 acres north of my dad's house is the last complete field I finished. I lacked like 4 acres behind his house. It's a separate field, different entity. Before I got rained out, I wish I could have got more, but I would have just made a mess. Dad and I kind of just talked it over a little bit, and he thinks that we ought to let the ground dry, just gamble on missing the rain, because anything we plant today, because this light ground's still damp, may end up just having to be replanted with how these soils behave. So they spray this one and quit. While I was spraying, I was texting a buddy from Lerno, which is where we checked those fields yesterday morning. They were just wet in the low spots, too wet really to go. As a matter of fact, when I left, I had mud on my shoes, which is never a good sign. He said there's quite a few guys running over there today. Dad and I actually went over there first thing because they got the least amount of rain, like a 10th or 1500ths last night. It still looked too wet, so if we miss this rain tonight, maybe we just go ahead. There's soybeans, want to get them growing. Could push it a little bit tomorrow just because there's rain in the forecast over the next week. Definitely have to wait and see what the rain does, because it's pretty much the determining factor of everything we do. Got the whole family loaded up, doing a little scouting trip. Graham's tucked away there too. Went to the wettest spot on the wettest farm over here in Lerna, and I'm sure there's going to be some imperfections. I think if it doesn't rain in the morning, we bring both field cultivators over and just crack it open and plant them. You want to say hi, or you just want the camera?
I want the camera.
Oh, you can't have the camera. Say hi.
Hi.
I'm evaluating the logistical possibilities of running the field cultivators to Lerna if we miss the rain, and running them north about 5-6 miles up here to Loxa, north of the hospital, northeast of Mattoon. Just checking this stuff out. We did all that land shaping. This field, when I sprayed it with 32 and residual almost a month ago, was not spotless, but there was not a large winter annual population. And you look at it now, it's just bursting with weeds. Most of them are winter annuals. I sprayed a couple ounces of Zidua, and for the most part it's holding new growth back, but in really high pressure areas you can see water hemp coming out. Regular pyroxasulfone with no burn down isn't going to kill anything that's out, so that's what you're seeing here. And I don't know, the lowest spots are a little heavy, and this ground is so soft from that inline ripper we ran. I mean, my truck's sinking 4 or 5 inches, and it's not because it's wet, it's more just because we powdered. I mean, that's insane. Definitely close though, so we may think about it once we get Lerna worked, if it doesn't rain. Looks like a pretty negligible amount of moisture came up overnight. The issue is that Mother Nature seems to have different plans for us again today. If we end this morning shower with anything more than a 10th, you can pretty much forget about planting again today. Well, you gotta stop doing your rain dance. Hey guys, I want to be involved. Just runs right into everyone. Oh, look at that, there's a rainbow over there. I got up this morning, I had intentions of fueling everything up, getting everything out, heading to the starting line, so to speak, but there's no reason for me to even lift a finger until we see whether or not it's going to shower. The bad part about a rainbow is usually a rain is involved, and that shower's coming from the southwest, which is the way we see that rainbow, so not looking good. Oh, not gonna lie, this is getting kind of exhausting every day. There's no sun in the forecast, or very minimal, so if we get even a 10th, I mean, the chances of us farming today, probably non-existent. I'm up here west of town right now. The field to the north we planted 2 weeks ago. The one to the south is the one I thought, you know, it's too wet, it's too early in April to plant this, work it wet, plant it in the mud. Not really mud, just wasn't ready to go. And now looking back on it, it's like, well, maybe we should have just planted it in suboptimal conditions, because it probably would have been fine with all that rain. Field to the north looks phenomenal, but it was drier. The field to the south was not as dry. Just because they're next to each other does not mean the soils behave the same, because they don't. Maybe we should have just freaking sliced it in there, and then the rain would have brought it up, because this north corn looks unbelievably good. Other than a few low spots, corn looks phenomenal out here. Dad's waterway also looks pretty good. The interesting thing about the design plan for this waterway is that the waterway actually was supposed to stop right there, and I planted some corn in there, and Dad also seeded it a little bit. They said that the grade is not aggressive enough from here to here, it's about 150 feet or so to justify running the waterway all the way out to the exit. So I guess if that's what they say, then that's what they say. Just out here twiddling my thumbs, watching it sprinkle. Probably should have just slept in this morning. It's hardly raining outside right now. I bet we've only got 1/100th of a rain, which is a 1/10 of a tenth. Very little. When it's already a little bit on the wet side, a little moisture came up overnight, and there's not much sun in the forecast. It's not great for planting because you need dry topsoil. We may still be able to run today, it's just not going to be as early as we'd like. Or maybe not, depending on how much it ends up raining or if the sun just never shows up. It's amazing how we went from a possibility of not getting any rain at all this morning to it showering for 3 hours straight. I'm getting very exhausted by these forecasts. Dad went to the welding shop, had them cut up a new piece of that tubing to replace the bar that was broken on the basket. Better than doing nothing, I suppose. You want me to put it down a little bit, the basket? I guess the least of what we can pull it out of the way, the better.
Don't lose all our parts.
4 bolts and nuts aside.
Short 2 nuts here. There's one here.
There's a nut.
Got plenty of nuts around here.
None of them are the right size. They might.
Yeah.
It'd just be easier just to drop the bottom one out on at least that side. Is there a spacer in there? There was. Okay. Now why'd that one come out so easy? Just, it's, since we loosen those bolts, it just dangles.
Hold on. No.
I'm gonna have to go back.
Did you tear up, Chris?
Not me, I don't drive it anymore. Can't blame me.
Everything's all put back together on the field cultivator, waiting on a bracket to come in to Alliance this afternoon, and then we're attempting to straighten the basket out a little bit. It was bent. I don't know if it's even possible to fix this. We're gonna bend it, put it all back together, and then once we get a chance to run it, we'll know whether or not it's feasible or if we'll just have to replace it. It may work. It's been a handful of hours since it stopped raining. Went over to learn it, check it out again. It was our driest looking farm. Neighbor's working ground right now. A little wet, but crack it open, let it dry. It may be what we try to do here shortly. This is gonna be the issue. Like, your light dirt's gonna look great, which it would have the other day too, and your dark dirt's gonna pull up kind of wet, and that may be them sending another tractor over. So we may send over an exploratory field cultivator here in a little bit. A lot of planting season it's been so far. When I left the field, saw the neighbors working, I decided we were gonna go ahead and send a field cultivator. Had some time to think about it. I talked it over with Dad. I also consulted with Ryan Sullivan. He is the Beck seed dealer, well respected in the area, also provides the seed beans for that farm and the seed corn for some other farms, kind of helps manage them a little bit. I wanted to get his opinion. Of course, Dad's opinion is almost always available on anything about what we should be doing. Keep in mind, those are wet fields. Although they're drier than all of this, they are still a tad bit on the heavy side. The issue we're having is that, one, we would be working them a little wet. It's already 3:30 in the afternoon. By the time we get a field cultivator over there, let's say 4:15, by the time, let's say we get the green light, the first field cultivator says it is dry enough, well, the other one's not there till 5 o'clock. Takes hour and a half at that point to work both fields. It's 6:30, the sun's making its way down, eventually moisture starts coming up, and by the time I get there with the planter, one, because there's not a lot of sunlight and high humidity today, the ground's really not going to dry that much. That's problematic because you want a nice aerated seed bed, and the compounding factor there is that there's a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch rain moving in tomorrow morning early, meaning you're going to plant in a wet seed bed, which is really not great, and then you're immediately going to get it sealed back over with more moisture, which is kind of a double negative there, a compounding issue where you're putting seed in a bad spot and then immediately greeting it with something else not that great. If there was anyone trying to push the agenda to go over there, it was me. Not that I'm trying to be gung-ho, I don't want to miss an opportunity on a prolonged wet planting season to maybe go a little bit ahead of when you probably should to get stuff covered, because if we keep getting delayed into mid to late May, we are losing major yield on our soybeans, or, you know, we might be losing a handful of bushels a week at this point. I guess that's not major, but it adds up. So trying to balance the line between getting things done and growing and gambling too much to where, you know, something like that, we may have to go back and plant it again. There's a lot of issues at hand also logistically, not that this would stop us because we can work around them. The DB60 is still full of 60 units of those Don Mario 37s. That is a Bex 39 bean going over there. So we'd have to dump all those units into a Pro box. We could get that done. Ultimately, the lesson of this video and this planting season is that we've been extremely spoiled the last few years. Think of last planting season where we got 5 or 6, 7 days in a row at some point of perfect planting conditions where you never even had to think, is the field ready to work? It was just, hey, they worked this field down the road. Okay, send them to field B. Okay, field C is another half mile. Just keep them going. They're already there. Just keep working it. The planters will get to them. The sprayer can spray it whenever Andy's not planting or doing something else. I can get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go spray, and no reason we can't have big days every day. This year is the exact opposite and probably closer to norm. You wait, you wait, you wait. 1 or 2 fields ready. You go spray it. Oh, you got rained out while you were spraying it, even though it wasn't supposed to rain for 2 hours. Just the way it's going. Where in the world did you guys find all of that mud? Jeez. Jeff's gonna have to spend a week power washing this thing. I think deep down, I knew that those fields over in Lerna were too wet. I'm glad someone talked me out of trying to go over there. Just that peer pressure of seeing a neighbor running, even if there's not very much dust, makes you do things you don't want to do. Hell, I do want to go get it planted. Just don't want to compromise yield for the sake of progress. That bearing holder came in, so we got the basket put back together. Too wet to find out if it's going to work today. I think just to get it done, we're going to go ahead and plant those 2 fields, finish the first field, and plant the other field we had worked from the other day, and then spray them. It's kind of a gamble, but it's right next to home, so if they don't come up, it's not the first time we've replanted them. Unfortunately, we've replanted them a lot. Talked about adding a second driveway here at my house for years, and I think it's just getting to the point our equipment's so big, we either need to widen the driveway a lot, give it somewhere to turn around, add the extra entrance, because it gets kind of challenging to turn stuff around all the time without destroying the yard. If it was dry, we'd just go out in the yard and turn around, but it's not. I'm just going to take that home. I'm going to wait about an hour, hour and a half, take advantage of this minuscule amount of sunshine, slight breeze, and go try to plant those beans. I gave it another hour and a half, came out to this field. This is the one that's not been planted at all. I am in a particularly wet spot, I think because of the trees and the field cultivator packed it down when it left. There's a little bit of water standing. I walked across it. I almost think this field is getting wetter as the afternoon goes on. I don't know if there's more moisture transpiring or actually hydraulically conducting upward then the sun is burning off because the sun keeps going behind the clouds. This looked drier an hour ago. We thought surely hour and a half it'd look better in plant, but I don't know that I'm going to bring a planter out here. I'm back behind Dad's house now. This is the one I got rained out without finishing. That was a day and a half ago. It would be about 2 days ago now, I guess, minus a few hours. Look how much these beans have already spiked down. These things will be out of the ground here in another 2 or 3 days. I shallowed them way up because light dirt, rain in the forecast, and they'll be quick to come to surface. This field is marginally drier at best. These things looked so much drier earlier. I don't know what happened. A little disappointed. I was gonna maybe push this one a little bit just to get the field finished. I'm not even sure that the trenches would close right here. It's just damp. Maybe it would. I'm definitely gonna leave a track if I come through here. It's soft on top. It's amazing how that works. I don't feel too bad about the mud on my planter, seeing as Dad has managed to get mud on the corn planter as well. Just the nature of 2024 planting. Sun came out. It's really nice out now. I wish it could have been like this since 8 o'clock this morning. We'd have about 700 acres planted right now. Out of our control, it rained instead. It will not take long to determine whether or not this is a good idea. I've only got like 4.5 acres left to plant, so even if it doesn't go well, not that much to replant. It's right next to home. I've planted a little bit. Looks like it's closing the trench out here in an area that is fairly wet. I've moved the Yetter polytwisters to the strongest setting. I guess that's a planter setting, not a polytwister setting. I curved around an inlet, so you're never going to get that good of a seal there, even when it's dry sometimes. I think I'll probably go ahead and plant this based on what I'm seeing and just actually hope it gets a rain, because you'll need a rain to come up, unfortunately. Yeah, my evaluation is most of the time you would never plant like this. I'm just going to finish the field. We'll consider it a test plot. Be amazing if these all come up. Might have to do some replanting. The ground's not only wet and damp, it's also kind of hard. It's keeping the row units from really pushing down in there fully. The irony here is that if it keeps raining, these will look magnificent. They'll beat everything out of the ground because there's quite literally nothing covering them up. Really, the primary rule of soybeans is you don't want to plant them if you can't close the trench, because they are prone to drying out. With a wet forecast though, it may come right out of the ground, who knows. The other issues you're going to look at is compaction. So that's what I'm saying. Consider this last 4 acres a little bit of a trial. I've got 1 round left. I literally needed like 10 more minutes without rain to finish this field, if that. There's hardly any left. We did it without getting stuck. Really, as long as I was planting straight, not like curving it all, putting an angle on the planter around something, the rows seemed to close pretty fine. I mean, they're all going to need a rain here. Be an interesting little trial, at least for emergence and maybe even for yield. Back to the shed we go to wait and see what the rain does in the morning. I'm really at a loss for what to use for forecasting. This is the My Radar app I use, but I'm just looking at their forecast because I've given everyone else a shot. They don't seem to be close. This is very vague, which I think leans to their favor in accuracy. 90% chance of precipitation tomorrow, less than a ½ inch possible. Wednesday, 70% chance, less than a ½ inch. Thursday, 70% chance, ½ to an inch. Oh man. So that's 2 inches combined if those are all together. All right, let's just close this app. We'll see what happens. 7 a.m. in the morning. Here comes a pretty heavy rain. Our border collies are petrified of storms, and lucky the golden retriever could not even be the least bit bothered. The other day he was just standing out in the rain. Whoa. A lot of lightning, a lot of rain. And there's the hail, I think. Pretty sure I just heard hail. Beans aren't gonna like that. Rained pretty hard there for 30 seconds and then it kind of just died down. I'd say we need to clean our gutters out. It's all coming over the edge and not down the downspout. Here comes another round of super heavy rain. You can see it pouring across the field. The rain should be clearing at home any minute now. I'm over west, about 10 miles at Windsor, checking out these 3-1 Pioneers we planted 2 weeks ago. Looks like they're up and rowable, which is good to see. Rain total ended up being about 4/10 of an inch, which is less than they were calling for, so there's a little victory for us. These beans look good. They probably liked a little shower. I've got to stop using the iPhone weather app. I checked this morning and it said tomorrow there was going to be 2.5 inches of rain. And then I checked it probably, what, 30 minutes later, and it's back to 8/10. And I'll probably check it again here in an hour, and it'll be 4 inches of rain. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, we have almost entirely missed a forecasted rain. Severe storms last night mostly went to the south. Thankfully, there was a lot of damaging winds, strong storms. I mean, obviously bad for the people who got them. It was nice though to only get a 1/4 inch as opposed to the 3/4 to an inch they were forecasting. We do have 4 or 5 days of dry weather in the forecast. It's going to be windy today. The sun's supposed to poke through in an hour or two. That'll get us pretty close to the way there. It's probably dreaming to think we'll be in the field in 2 days. If we can get one solid day in like 3 days before the next round of storms to knock out 1,000 acres or so, I'd be really happy with that. So that's all I'm going to report for the day. Early planted corn looking good, about ready to be side dressed. Ground will have to dry up, obviously. There's worse problems to have. We've made good progress. Everything planted early looks phenomenal. I just wish we had a lot more planted. Doesn't take much for the first week of May to turn into the last week of May if it keeps raining, so we're more likely to push the envelope as the calendar goes on. That's going to be the end of this lengthy video. I hope next time I fire up the camera, maybe we're circling the troops, thinking about doing some tillage again. Hard to believe right now because the ground's fairly soft. We've got the warm temperature, mid-70s. Wind's going to be here today. Just need the sun to break through and we can make some pretty good headway for drying. I'm going to take off. As always, I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Your viewership means the world to me. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!